the weather. There's a lot of, unfortunately, it's rainy. And that's why we're all here. But that's some really good news. But more importantly, some of our members may come in trickling a little bit later, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So I did want to thank our members who were able to make it today, and then also those folks as part of our audiences. I know I see a lot of familiar faces, so we're here. We finally made it here. I know for those of you that have been with us, thank you for your patience. We've had a lot of conversations over the past few months. So today is the purpose of our meeting today is, first of all, I want to introduce myself. I am the interim director of stormwater. I am Jessica Shirley Sines. The purpose of today's meeting today is for the neighborhood, for Concepcion Creek Neighborhood Advocacy Group. So we're going to make some welcomes, introductions, talk a little bit about the purpose of today's meeting. Also, we have our team, a very robust team that will actually talk about a community engagement plan and overview, and we're going to have an open dialogue and discussion with our group members here shortly. And then also talk about, which is why everybody's probably here and most interested about, is the upcoming community open houses and those overviews. So everyone in the community is going to have an opportunity. So today is about strategizing on how we can bring the community together to ensure that all voices are heard and that we understand the needs of the community before we identify what improvements to go forward with. And then we'll talk a little bit about next steps and then also where you can get the information. So there's a couple administrative things that I really wanted to get up front. We're not here to discuss specifics about the project, what happened in the past. We have committed to starting anew. We're starting out with a brand new clean slate. And so this is our first step towards that. But your concerns are still valid. We do have some comment cards, and if there are things that are specific that you need to make sure that we document, these cards are available, and that actually is welcomed and encouraged, because that would actually prepare us for the upcoming sessions that we're planning to have with the community. So before we start, I just wanted to make introductions. We have the Public Works team, a mighty team of staff members. We have Victoria Escobedo, who's our PM for this project. And then we also have our consultant team, and Victoria is going to kind of walk us through and make some introductions as well. We have the Concepcion Creek Drainage Project Neighborhood Communications Advocacy Group members. I just wanted you guys to introduce yourselves.
Up there, 246 Craig, and I'm the last garden.
So a little bit about our group here today, and also the purpose of today's meeting is to update you on the project's community engagement plan. We have had a lot of conversations regarding this project. There was initial efforts that were done roughly about 2 years ago, and it was very loud and clear that the residents felt that there wasn't enough engagement as well as conversations before a solution was presented. And so that caused a lot of confusion, and also there was a lot of important information that still needed to get out, because it wasn't necessarily focused on the project itself, but also the bigger issue, which is those floodplain maps are actually getting updated. And there's communities that before are currently right now that are not in the floodplain that are now. And so it's understanding what that means and how can we mitigate so that those residents are not going to feel the impacts of flooding. So today, and the reason why the group was assembled is that we want to do a better job. This is the city's commitment to make sure that all the community members that have the potential of being impacted, and anybody that's in the area, even though they're not going to be directly impacted on with regards to the improvements themselves, are valid stakeholders. So we want to do a better job of doing that. So today, our team will go over how we're planning to do that, how do we intend to get that feedback from the community, and how do we move forward. We want to listen to your concerns and ensure that the studies and the new approach that we're taking reflects the needs of everyone in the community. And then we're going to discuss our next steps. So a little bit of ground rules. The purpose is to have, make sure that we're respectful for each other. Want to focus the discussion on what today's meeting purpose is, which is to come to a consensus on how we plan to communicate, and then also take the recommendations on how we can improve upon that. We want to be respectful of others. We want to be clear in our comments, and we want to let everyone have an opportunity to speak as far as the group members. And then to assist and with this, we're asking that we're going to prevent some disruptions. I'm going to personally stay after the meeting, so those of you in the audience that have specific questions, I will make myself available and for however long it takes to speak to anybody that has any follow-up questions or concerns. So what problem is the city trying to solve? The city of San Antonio we are responsible to address the flood risk and to protect public safety and property. Foremost, it's life safety. Drainage solutions will be evaluated to reduce flood risk and improve long-term resiliency. We make a commitment, and we have, to the community. We're committed to finding solutions that do not require mandatory relocation of residents. And that is going to be reiterated throughout the duration of this campaign and through the project. The city is committed to working with the community so that we can ensure all voices are heard throughout the entire process. So we got a lot to cover. With that, I'm going to hand it over to our project manager, Victoria Escobar.
All right, so just to go back in time slightly, so in August, we were accepted an award of a grant, and we awarded a contract to Quiddity Engineering as our prime consultant to work on the Concepcion Creek project. So that intent, or the goal of this grant, is to solve some flooding issues within the Concepcion Creek watershed. But the city stance is we're going to take a step back. We're going to go into community engagement first. We're going to hear from the community at large, so not just one specific neighborhood, but the whole watershed, and understand really what is happening, what are y'all experiencing, and what is your concerns as a community, and how can we tailor those solutions around those concerns. So part of that new approach is to develop more transparency in our engagement and get more community engagement. And so with that, we've developed a draft community engagement plan. Because we haven't really done introductions of our consultants. So I'm going to do some quick introductions of our consultants. So we have with us Quiddity Engineering. Do you want to stand up? Stand up. And so Quiddity is our prime. We have a whole team. So then we have some consultants doing some modeling and hydraulics and hydrology. So the real heavy engineering. But most importantly, and my favorite, is we have Concepcion with us. So Concepcion Camarillo is doing our community engagement. And so we have Elizabeth Story and then her team here to gather and really capture what it is that the community is trying to tell us. And so with today's meeting, we're gonna go over this communication plan, the community engagement plan, to understand, so you understand what we're intending to do, and to make sure that those intents are aligning with the community. And so again, we're not talking about project specific and what is going in the ground, what potentially all of that is off the table right now. We're still we're starting from scratch, and we're starting with hearing from the community. And so why does engagement matter? So engagement shapes the decision of what we're gonna do, right? We wanna hear from you to know that the answers that we're proposing is really gonna meet the needs for the community. It's gonna create meaningful participation, and it's gonna make sure that everyone has a voice. So we're not just hearing one person or targeting one neighborhood, we're targeting the community as a whole, a watershed as a whole, a district as a whole. And then also, we want to make sure that you as community members feel seen and heard from us, that we were able to turn around and say, yes, they listened to me and they understood what I said. So communication is a two-way street. You have to say what you mean and we have to receive that. And so this is a plan that's going to explain how we're going to give you the opportunity to say your concerns and express yourself, and how we're going to receive it and then say back, this is what we heard, to ensure that that communication was clear. And then also it builds confidence in the transparency of our decision-making process. So instead of us saying, this is what we decided, we're gonna say as a community, this is what we heard, and this is what the community decided. And so it's gonna be our way of really showing that we've been transparent, we're creating transparency. This is not an unknown or a new technique, but it's just at this scale with the city, we haven't really done that. And so it is something that we're not, I'm a novice at, I haven't really done this at all, I can tell you that. And so we're really turning to our experts to lead us in this, and Pasneki is an expert in community engagement, and they've done this many different times, and they'll be able to explain some of those venues and those opportunities that they've hosted in the past, and how it can relate to this project. And so then lastly, our goal is to make sure that we're not making decisions for the community, but rather with the community. So instead of us making the decision for you, the community is making the decision as a whole and telling us and leading us on our solutions. And so the purpose of the engagement plan is our roadmap and how we're gonna communicate. Like I said, we want to make sure that we have the venue for you to speak to us, for us to speak back to you, and for us to say, this is what we've heard. We want to encourage participation, so we have a few people here from the community, but we want to see a lot more. We really need to hear from the community at large. And then we want to respect the time of both the community and the staff. So instead of having the same meeting and the same people come over and over in the same conversation, we want to be able to have that opportunity to engage with as many people with the same information, and for you to feel confident that if you're not attending every meeting, things aren't going to be done and decided without you. That you have that transparency is there, that we're gonna be including everybody in this conversation and everybody in the decision making. And then we want to value feedback. We value your feedback, and so this is a way of showing how that feedback will be valued and then reiterate what they said. And then it presents and then we're also going to present what we developed. So as we come up with this plan, we want to make sure that we have this avenue to be able to come back at a later date and say, this is what we heard. So we want to hear from you, and then we're going to respond. We're going to do our part and say, this is what we heard. And so with that, we want to get into the meats of the plan, what it means. And so I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth Story so she can get into it.
Excellent. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for attending this rainy day. We're going to talk about this draft plan. And again, we're saying it's draft. We are looking for feedback today for if there's anything that we're missing, anything that we overlooked in this overview. So every plan starts with the beginning of what is the project itself, noting what is, so the plan will include like what is the overview of the study, what's the background, what's the history of it. And it includes what's going to be our sort of our public friendly map, which includes where is the alternative study area that we're going to be looking at, and definitely everyone who's under this gray area is what we want to make sure that we are reaching out to those folks. The study area is generally south of US 90, east of General McMullen Drive, and west of the San Antonio River. In the map itself, it also shows you where Concepcion Creek is here, with the stormwater flowing from the west to the east, heading towards the San Antonio River. So this is the only thing that's in the plan that's technical. The rest is the engagement plan elements. So current issues, and these are current issues that are for community engagement, not for the technical studies. The study team, we definitely anticipate that there is community interest in this study. So some of those concerns that we want to be prepared to address start with trust and transparency. We understand that those are two key things we want to make sure that we address. Accurate information sharing. Potential impacts to private property, definitely want to take a note, again, that there's a commitment from the city that there is no mandatory relocation of private property as a result of the solutions that we are looking into, but we know that there are concerns about impacts to private property, which is why it's listed. There's the uncertainty of the overall study. Again, why we need to meet, why we need to communicate so that we can better clear up those uncertainties. So those are current issues that we know we need to address and resolve. Engagement goals, you've heard it before, but I'm going to say it again, that our number one goal is to make sure that the community is heard and confident that the decision-making process that the city is making is transparent. If we meet this goal, that means that we'll increase continued participation, means we'll see you here, we'll see you December, and we'll see you next year. And that builds informed consent of what is the city trying to solve here. Our additional engagement goals, I know these are small, but I'm going to make sure I touch on some of these very important goals that we want to meet with our plan itself and with our meetings that are coming up. We want to improve our transparency and the community engagement, as per Jessica say. We're going to build awareness of the flooding risks, and we want to define the problem. What's the problem that the city is trying to solve? As we are also trying to define what are potential solutions to solve that problem. We want to ensure there's no predetermined solutions or decisions as we're walking into this fresh start to the study. We want to prioritize our community relationships that we've had with you over the past few years. We want to provide factual and accessible information. Tamara was talking to folks in the back. We want to make sure that everything is in English and Spanish when we go to the community in December. We want to offer multiple ways to answer questions and build trust through consistency and our consistent message and our consistent visibility with the community. And my favorite part of the whole thing is documentation. I love documentation. Will is here taking notes, making sure that anything that y'all are going to say today in today's meeting that we document, because I want to document all input and feedback. So again, as similar to what Victoria said, that we reflected back to you of what did we do with the feedback we received, and if there's something that we could do with it, that we show what we did. Because we are committed to the feedback with the community, and those are our key goals with our outreach. When the rubber meets the road is this slide. This is what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. We have planned engagement activities, including this neighborhood communication advocacy group. And then we have 2 series of community open houses. We're going to talk a lot more about the community open houses in the next section. And so those are the events. That's where there's that face-to-face conversation, and the communication tools is how do we get you there? How do we communicate with you? What do we send you before, after, and during? And that includes bilingual flyers, postcards to the community, comment forms. We have the sayspeakup.com website where information will be posted. Email updates. We want to make sure that we have as many email addresses as possible. So if you haven't given us your email address before, make sure that you do before you leave today. Direct contact. If you call Victoria, that's a very important part of our engagement plan, is that direct contact. Media, social media, and more. And very key is our communication style. We've definitely heard from the committee during the April meeting that we want to be as public friendly as possible, with avoid jargon, clearly communicate technical information, try to keep it in bullet points with infographics instead of just a wall of text that is hard to understand. We want to be factual and transparent in our communications and center the community's well-being, safety, and your dignity. And again, as noted, making sure that we have it in English and in Spanish. Because we are wanting to be accountable to the work that we do as part of this engagement plan. That begins with compliance and accessibility. That includes the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, and limited English proficiency, or LEP. Examples of that for Title VI, making sure that everyone is welcome to our events. We want everyone to feel safe and welcome to the events that we put on. With ADA, we want to make sure that we have handicap accessible facilities where we are having our community open houses. And with limited English proficiency, that we make sure that everything is provided in both English and Spanish. And then again, my favorite part is evaluation and documentation. This includes how the team is going to evaluate how did the event go, how are our evaluation metrics going, and then document the implementation of this plan. That includes, we're doing meeting minutes for today's meeting. We're putting this, this is being recorded right now, so we put on sayspeakup.com, and that there will be documentation of every step of the way so that you know if you give us feedback, it is documented, it is in the record. Timeline. So today, we're in October, we're meeting for the Neighborhood Communications Advocacy Group here in October. We are planning to hold 2 open houses, community open houses in December. We'll talk more about that in the next section. And then in the spring, we're going to come back. So as a result of everything that we hear from you today, what we hear in December, and then like the liquidity team and the City of San Antonio is going to work on for the technical studies, that's all going to be put in a pot and then re-delivered in our spring 2026 repeat of this meeting and a repeat of those community open houses in series 2 of those open houses. One thing I want to note, COVID definitely taught us a lot. It says official timeline is subject to change. I love putting up the timeline, but I just definitely want to note that things can definitely change with this timeline, but we want to make sure that if things change, that you are updated through those email updates and those various ways that we're getting information out. Now, beyond spring 2026, I just want to note that the city is committed to keep you informed about this project. The plan always ends with good contact and the study team. So the study team includes the City of San Antonio Public Works Department and a consultant team led by Quiddity with the engagement support from my firm Posnick and Camarillo. The study team's efforts is going to include technical studies and community engagement. And the plan will details out the roles and responsibilities of who's doing what, and the points of contact, implementing the plan. So with that, that is an overview of what is the plan, and we want to get y'all's thoughts of, what was missing, are we on the right track, and what stands out the most? I'll start with you with that.
So, it come back, but I just, taking in information.
Absolutely.
I have a comment on your graphic, they had all the icons, we'll let to that one, just the whole thing, all the down right there. Okay, so I understand what those are the steps we're gonna be going through.
These are our goals. These are that if we, success is if we do this.
Do you have that one? We have a lot. Is there another graphic? Yeah, is that it? That's what. Well, this is what explain the process, correct?
This is, if we do these goals, then that means that we've been successful.
Your narrative led me right through that. I did understand that. But my comment would be that for some of us that got into this process, maybe the people who are running into the public is. This describes the city of San Antonio's process or the increment of the project here looking at right now. What I had a hard time understanding as I started muddling through this thing at the beginning, because I caught it on a big stage, and I was just being told, homes being taken, I'm trying to understand what's going on here. There's another process before the city of San Antonio that I think is an issue for some of us to try to understand it. That is the San Antonio River Authority, the FEMA people. What we understand is they're telling you, the city, this is your floodplain, that there's only so much you can. Now it's up to you to figure out how you're gonna cover it. That being true, I think that needs to be brought into this. You're only taking care of certain pieces of it, because then some want to know what can we do to talk about that? That part of it, that's part of my problem. I want to know how can I address some of that. It then leads to my problem with it. I know we're going forward and back, but you're talking about building trust. Where my problem with trust in the past was, but what the San Antonio River Authority did to you was, this is where it came from, because now I'm left with trying to challenge. Why is all of this issue? How do I get back to the people that really caused this thing? The San Antonio River Authority, why didn't you look at most of the water that's causing the flood is coming from US 90 intrusion. It creates this wall of water that's coming towards us, and then the blockage of the water at the Union Pacific Railroad. So part of this whole process is, how do I get back to San Antonio River Authority to look at some of those options, or is it all left with me?
That is an excellent question. We're making sure we put that in the notes, and I want to have an answer for you on that.
That's what I'd like to see. Sarah is in this somehow, FEMA is in this somehow. I read the newspaper, FEMA may be going away. And I think there's questions I've got here as a citizen as to what's coming at me here. And I understand you're part of the process. You're saying you're taking Sarah's information as a given. I'd like to find out, what can I, in the audience, who do I talk with Sarah to say, I'm not sure I believe all this stuff.
Question. I want to make sure that we have an answer. Victoria, is there anything you want to add?
So we are not taking Sarah's information as a given.
Okay.
But for the purpose of the communication engagement plan, what we can do is when we have our open house, we can address that as a community. What we are doing is those steps to challenge the rulings of what the floodplains are and explain really what a floodplain is, right? It's hard if you're not in one of my seat, right, where I've studied it, I know when I'm talking to people or Sarah regularly, it's hard to understand what it is and how it's going to impact the community. So we can have a station that would really enlighten the community of those impacts and what our stance and our approach in addressing.
The other comment is with me. And I know both must stay positive, we're all moving forward, we're not gonna look back, but we are building on something, we're not gonna throw away the old stuff. So bringing all that to the positive things is, some of us were very concerned about the previous information. And I think I'd like an assurance from you that if you talk about alternatives, I'd like to make sure that what we're saying is before it was bracketed by 3 alternatives we had to deal with. I want to know that we have more alternatives. That in those alternatives are options that look at not taking any houses.
Correct.
And the other thing I'd like to look at besides the bandwidth of the alternatives is, I like the financial plan to have more options of this. You see, it just seems like every city I've become aware of that looks at financial plans, it all comes back to a bond issue. And as I mentioned before, I don't feel that the city of San Antonio created this problem. I think Tech stopped with US 90, Union Pacific with a railroad track created a big part of my problem. I'd like to see somehow where this financial plan addresses more with partnerships with them. If we can get them engaged to see, we're part of you, we love you, we bring about safety and commerce and stuff, but we need your help. See how we get them involved into this. So I think if you can help us figure out how we do that through this public meeting process, I think we'll get some positive stuff out of it.
Excellent, definitely, we're making sure we get that done. And the Scott and UPR are on our list to make sure that we are in coordination with that as well.
I think we're gonna have a hard time. And you're doing a good job. By saying we're leaving the past behind, we haven't forgotten some of the past, we're gonna make sure that we're.
Mayor with San Antonio ISD. This is my first meeting, and we were 4 weeks before to attend. So I appreciate this new approach because I wasn't getting answers to find out how is it going. So I appreciate the new approach. I think it's I think it's what we need to do. Many times the school district gets left out of conversations about what's happening in the area. And we know CIC has had to close schools because of declining enrollment. And I know that in part is because sometimes you have to move because things around us get changed. Like it becomes difficult to live in that space. And sometimes there's development nearby, something happens where an external entity did something, whether it's new business or something that TechStop did, it impacts us, and those don't always get taken into account. Same thing with public schools. We don't always get taken into account, and sometimes things happen around us without getting a full understanding. So I appreciate, thank you very much for this new phase. And however we can partners with this, it's us.
Anything else you wanna mention with the?
Just for everybody's benefit, we are recording this, on the computer on the corner over here. If you all could just make sure and speak up so that your voices are.
And of course, we will make sure that there are notes, there will be written version. So
Can we get a copy of this presentation?
To mention with the community engagement plan. I think that covers it. We got some good feedback on the plan. But we'll go more into depth of what the actual plan is gonna produce.
for the community open houses.
Yeah, that's our next step.
All right, anything else in the engagement plan?
The next step of the plan is our community open house, right? And so typically, if you've been to one of our public meetings, you're gonna come and I'm gonna stand here and I'm gonna give you a whole lot of information for about 15, 20 minutes. And then I'm gonna say, does anyone have any questions? And then we'll have this whole Q&A audience answer. And then we'll, in that, and we'll have a little bit of one-on-one conversation, and then we send y'all out. We don't feel like that's the most effective way to communicate with the community on this approach, on trying to get your feedback, because why am I gonna talk when I wanna hear you talk, right? So we're gonna turn this whole, the community meeting around, and we're gonna have an open house. And so what is an open house? An open house, there's gonna be 2 series of open houses. You'll have, one in December and then one in spring of 2026. And each series is gonna have 2 separate meetings, so there'll be 4 public meetings. The 2 meetings within the first series in December, it's gonna be the same information on both meetings. So we're not gonna say things to one person and then come around and a week later say something to someone else that's different. Really, again, we're really seeking your feedback at this first public meeting. And so then the public meeting or the open house meeting is gonna be 2 hours long, and it's a come and go as your time allows, right? So we don't want you there for 2 hours. We want you to come, talk to us, give us your information and leave, but we're gonna be available for those 2 hours. So we can hear from everybody during that. And so it's technically 4 hours, the 2 different days. And then I said, we wanna hold these meetings really close together so that information isn't going off into the atmosphere and we're losing it. So we wanna keep that momentum going. And so then, again, we're having our meetings early December. And so with this meeting, we wanna present our new goals, right? So some of the goals that we've talked about as far as our communication and outreach, the direction that we're going. And so we've done some work, but we're taking a step back. We're starting from scratch. We're hearing from the community. And then we really want to listen to the community. So as I said many times in today's meeting and how we've been addressing the community or expressing ourselves, we want to hear back from you. And so the first series is going to be really gathering information for us. Second series will be in the spring. And so I know we say spring, but our spring is not March, April, May. Our spring is the second quarter of the year, which is, I wrote down the here. April, May, June. No, yeah, April, May, June. So when I say spring, it could go to June. So sometime in that period, we'll have a follow-up meeting where we're gonna tell you, this is what we heard, and this is the approach for coming in. And so like, Bob, as you mentioned, you want to hear who are those partners, who are we gonna be working with, that's what we'll be presenting that information. We've engaged with TxDOT, we've engaged with the railroad, we've engaged with the school district. We've looked at all these different stones and we've left none unturned, but these are the stones that are gonna be useful for us to follow up with. And we don't want to present one answer. We're not gonna come back and say, this is what we're doing. We're gonna say, these are some options. And then give people the opportunity to get feedback on those options. And there might be some questions on, well, did you look at this? And hopefully we looked at it, because again, like I said, we want to leave no stone unturned, and so we can say, yep, we did, and these were some of the constraints with it. So then, say spring, and then, okay, yeah, so I'm gonna turn it back over to Elizabeth to talk about more of what these community open houses look like.
Excellent, excellent. We've chosen a very deliberate structure so that it gives you equal access to all of the information, and all of the staff gives you personal attention to make sure that we're hearing from you. And it gives us really usable feedback from you that helps for all the participants that come to our meetings, that we're making sure that we hear from everybody and that it's documented and we can do something with that information. Because our goal is to hear from everyone who participates. So right now we're looking at a format of a come and go open house. It is held on a weekday, and we have, we're gonna talk through some of those options that are under consideration. It's a weekday from 4:30 p.m. So anybody can come early at 4:30 p.m. and end at 7 p.m. So we're there on a weekday for 2.5 hours. You can stay for the whole 2.5 hours. You can come for 30 minutes or whatever floats your boat for that. And then on a Saturday would be from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. This is very similar to what my firm recently did with Via Metropolitan Transit to great effect. Attendees can arrive and leave at their convenience after speaking one-on-one with team members. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what's in the room when we get in there. And all the meeting materials are going to be available online at saspeakup.com on the exact moment that the meeting starts, so that if you can't attend in person for whatever reason, you will be able to access all of that information. And if you want to talk to a staff member, there will be a phone number or an email address so that you can get that personal attention. Because again, we want to make sure that if you're interested in this project and you have comments and questions, that we're hearing it and that we're able to respond back to you. Providing this come and go in-person meeting and online option really lets people decide when and how they want to participate and for how long due to whatever your personal scheduling time constraints is, or how passionate you are about how you want to talk about the project with us. So there's no set time. We want to participate as long or as little as you want. We really want to be convenient to the community. Examples of this, I have photos. Will is featured in one of them. Thank you, Will. So our recent meetings for the Via Silverline project are pictured here to the left, where you see on our easels on the top is a English exhibit and on the bottom is a Spanish exhibit, because we want to make sure that the room is equal English and Spanish so that there is no issue with language. There's no language barrier for anybody who's coming in and wants to engage with us. What you can see in the center is one of the ways that we'll be requesting feedback of where we have an open-ended question and folks can fill out what is their answer to that question, and then you can read everybody's thoughts that are up on this board. We're also wanting to do some sticker exercises. This really helps us understand the priorities of the community. This example was a funding example where we were getting priorities from the community of what they felt about each funding option, and we could definitely tell by the number of stickers of where was the community priorities. And in this example, it was preserving rural character. That was definitely, you heard loud and clear from the city of Seguin. So we would want to make sure that we are hearing, are we on the right track? Are we on the wrong track? And that is one of the elements in which we are going to be receiving your feedback at this meeting. These are pictures of, again, projects that Positive Camarillo was done in this area. So what is going to be after these meetings? First up is how we're going to get your feedback. The first way we're going to get your feedback is with the staff that is giving you personal attention at each station. Is going to have a clipboard or a sheet of paper where we are taking down your comments and your questions so that we make sure we capture it in that way. The second way we're getting your feedback is those open-ended questions where you're filling out the Post-it note so that we can see and you can plus up any Post-it note that you see so that we know if there's something that someone says that you agree with, that we know that as well. And then those sticker exercises so we can validate priorities in the community. And finally, a comment form, similar to what you have today, but we'll also have in our comment form additional questions so that we're making sure that we're really receiving valuable feedback from the community that can help the liquidity team and the city of San Antonio as we're figuring out what is the solution to this problem that the city is trying to solve. There'll be these interactive bilingual stations. They're designed so that you can come up and talk to folks who all have the same information. You're going to hear the same information across the entire room. And you'll be able to browse those stations and provide written and verbal feedback. Each station will be staffed. We'll be speaking in English and in Spanish at this event. And there'll be maps. Bob, to your point, we want to provide the old FEMA map and the new FEMA map so that you can see that information, as well as those interactive feedback boards. And we'll have a pre-recorded video presentation for anyone who wants to see that on a continuous loop. This is a design, again, it's a deliberate structure so that you get equal access to all of the information and we receive valuable feedback that we can digest and reflect back to you in the spring. How will we invite people? I know that this has been discussed at the last couple of meetings, but I want to make sure that we reiterate. Of course, we'll have outreach and notice to elected officials. We'll have postcards, English and Spanish, to the community. We'll be doing a lot of email updates. Again, want to remind that we want to get everyone's email addresses. And if there's anybody you know in the community that you're like, hey, you need to be on this email address, let us know, let them know. We want to make sure we include them in our email list. That will include a save the date. As soon as after this meeting, we're going to be making some decisions about what, when and where these meetings are. And so that save the date will come as be the first thing that you'll hear next. And reminder e-blasts of those updates for these meetings. We'll have webpage content on sacp.com. It's on your fact sheet that you received at the front. There is both the website spelled out and the QR code that will take you to that website. We are also looking into getting changeable message signs on the roadways in the study area. We found that to be a really successful way for folks who may have never heard about the project that as they're driving, they'll see that there is a public meeting for them to come to, based off of this roadway signs. We'll do door hangers and flyers, so we'll be out in the community handing these out to folks, making sure that you're aware of the meetings. And of course, the city of San Antonio has their media relations, social media arm. So these are what we are currently planning for our outreach to the community for these events. Let's see, how are we gonna document? You've heard me, my favorite part. We are making sure that the proceedings, including all comments received, will be documented in a summary report. And this documentation will be available on that website, on saspeak.com. However, if for any reason you're unable to go to that website, or you would like it to be available in hard copy, we'll make sure that you get a hard copy as well. And a full report out will be available at the next meeting in spring of 2026. So that we are, we've received the information from you, and we're gonna reflect that back to you in spring of 2026 of what we did with the input received. All right, let's talk about time, dates, locations. We have been scouring the study area and have had some difficulty finding actual locations in the study area. We have found 2 that are available to us that are pretty close. I'm gonna put a map, I'll come back to this slide in a second. But here is another map of that alternative study area. And you can see just south of it is the Harlandale Civic Center. Perfect location for our event. It's large, great parking, it's great. We also have the Boeing Center at Techport, enormous, but they have a great room for us that we would be able to rent. And it is south of the study area, and I do apologize for that. We have been looking for locations within the study area, and it's December, it's a hard time to schedule events. But we are very excited about both of these locations. They're large, they have great parking. So going back to when they are available, we are looking at potentially, and I do want to note, we want to come away from this with 2, we're not going to do 3 meetings, so we're wanting to do 2. Unless you guys want us to do 3, let us know. But Tuesday, December 2nd, that's the week right after Thanksgiving, from 4:30 to 7 p.m., Harlandale Civic Center is available for us. And then the next week, Tuesday, December 9th, we would be able to get into Techport for our event then. We also checked with Techport, they are available on Saturday. So if the Advocacy group is interested in us doing Saturday meeting instead of 2 Tuesday night meetings, we want to hear from you on that. And we're looking at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Now, dates, times, locations, we can move any of this around. This is just a presentation of what we were able to find for today's meeting. And I think from that, we want to open up to the Advocacy group of what do you think about these date, times, locations? And yes, Bob.
I definitely have concerns about those locations. I think there's, Lowell Middle School, Burbank High School, there might be someplace that's closer to a bus line with a lot of free parking. That'd be the 2 criteria I look for.
We were, both of these places are on a via line, and we were not able to unfortunately reach ASID was unable to get back to us for location.
Oh.
But maybe we could work with you on it.
Yes, so, yeah, you talked to, but I could see, we have to be mindful, because sometimes there's sports activities happening sometimes, but I could definitely look at the dates and see.
We haven't had good.
Sorry, I'm not being, I'm just saying, I'd like for us to look at maybe some other options that are easier for these neighborhoods to get to.
We've, if you have some ideas, we would love to hear them. We have left no stone unturned about any area in here, and it's either they're unavailable, they're not
Maybe
rented.
the issues we just taking this one. There's a St. John Baptist Church.
They were unavailable.
Looking at something in that town.
Yes, and we have, the church said no, like we've asked.
Yeah. Say just keep on. Just keep on.
And with this, I see it is a little difficult now because we're having to be more mindful of who comes in and who leaves and schedules with the school and more, with more state safety regulations, we have to be more mindful. But I will, if I can look at Burbank, Lowell, Collins,
Yeah, and I will say Burbank got back with us late this week, and the principal said that they have community programs or school programs throughout the afternoon. We might utilize it.
We got a lot of no's, but I promise we tried. But I can promise that both of these locations are on a via route, and they have incredible amount of parking.
that for both days?
Yes, we were inquiring about it.
I could look into Lowell or Collins Garden. I know Collins Garden is like street parking. That's a familiar place.
Because if it's an elementary school or middle school, parking will be rough because people do not drive to, a kindergartner doesn't drive. So at the high school, we asked, the high school, they said, I believe they said no.
Lowell, so next to Lowell, it's in the middle, there's Lowell and Kelly. And there's a city park in the middle. So they're in pretty close proximity to each other, so I can try to look at Kelly Elementary or Lowell Middle School. That's,
And I don't know all the church facilities, but most churches have halls that can handle some side. I don't know how big a footprint you need, but,
St. James.
Yeah, we talked to St.
If
James.
they talk to James.
They said so. St. Henry's, I think would be the same thing, just a little bit north. It's not really in the study area.
look at that.
And I'm sorry, I know that this is always the hardest thing, that you want it in the study area or in the corridor, and we got a lot of this.
But Saturday would be our, would be,
Feeling the Saturday.
Tuesday to Saturday.
Any other thoughts on the Tuesday and Saturday? Or Tuesday?
Saturday, Saturday helps, because you have a lot of people who work late. And that time, around 10 o'clock, 9 a.m., that before noon, I found that neighborhood people work that time, that way they have the rest of the day. Something so that didn't morning time.
So maybe 9 to 11 is a good time.
So we're seeing that the better time for going Saturdays, around 9 to 11.
Exactly.
Do you have a preference for the Tuesday the 2nd or Tuesday the 9th? So we could look at Saturday the 6th and Tuesday the 9th as our times. What about the 4:30 to 7 p.m.?
That was for some. Give them two options of things on a Saturday. You know. It's hard to accommodate everything.
Well, we want to do our best. Let's see, is there any other on the, let's go back to, is there anything else in the invite that you want us to adjust or change or make sure that we definitely do?
The death.
That's
I've been getting contacted by some folks in the population are engaging with that.
excellent. So potentially having AFL and doing that outreach. Got it. It's an excellent note. Thank you. Sorry.
The community parks weren't available for rental on the weekdays. We might be able to look at one on the weekend,
For which one?
Memorial, or even Palm Heights.
Palm Heights was available on Saturday evening. If you wanted to. One Tuesday night, but we could do that.
And it's because the Parks and Recs does programming already, so it's hard for them to not do their program. That looks into it for other reasons too. Even our regular, like, project public meetings, we can't hold in that park anymore. We normally turn to library or other facilities. So if there's any other facility, and we got mentioned the churches, if I can think of like, even a restaurant has like a banquet room or something, we can try to look into those things. We're willing to go anywhere that they'll have recommended.
But we definitely want to have a room that can fit 100 people. That's where I'm at. Wanting to make sure the room is that big. Any other thoughts on the invites? And any other feedback on what we presented today for,
The structure of like having the stations, what are your thoughts on the meeting that's in that format? The come and go.
It's perfect. You're not stuck to 7 hours.
one of the things I liked about some of the public meetings, they had that style, but they also had like a brief video taped message and English and Spanish. I thought that was helpful too for
Who 100% about that, is that what I mean?
So you talked about the FEMA before and now. Is going to change.
I don't know the answer to.
So there was a change in updating the methodology that FEMA is using to show the inundation. And then also, with Act 14, so nationally, there has been a revision to the amount of rainfall that we're considering in different areas. Not necessarily that it increased, it changed and had better data using rain gauges, historic rain gauges. And so with incorporating both of those into the flood maps was how the maps changed.
You know, I think that's hard to understand that. I think people, the whole idea that there's less permeability and that's causing more, I think time needs to be spent on that because most of what they're gonna say is it's never flooded here. So I'm getting, yeah, I think Central River Authority, FEMA putting a lot at your doorstep that you would and figure it out.
I agree, because that, like, exactly that. You hear people say, it did, you know, why is it flooding in my backyard? And they'll call their council member to come out there and not realizing that something happened a couple of blocks up that changed and lack of permeability and so kind of getting like a little primer, like in maybe that 10, like how did we get here? Kind of thing, maybe. But there will also be, so Mr. Guaya, you mentioned text with their, and you mentioned you're trying to engage them as well. Would it make sense to have them also present?
There's definitely going to invite them. I like the idea of having them present.
And I think for our second series in the spring, when we come back with a solution, I would really want them there, because they're gonna be part of the solution with us. I hope they'll be part of the solution. But really the first meeting is more gathering what's been experienced and what are the community's thoughts on flooding and math and issues that they've experienced in real life, right? Not what I see on my maps and my numbers, but what have y'all actually encountered? You know, it's flood that Rio City Road. I know that because I've been in it. So we want to know those things. And then that is a concern. Like I drive Rio and it floods me, and so I'm concerned about Rio. So maybe we're not focusing in on the whole neighborhood, but we can focus in on certain points. But that I don't think necessarily needs TxDOT or UPRR, but we would want them there to see what the community is doing and be a part of this conversation, not a side partner listening. So we will invite them, but they might not have a presence as far as like a station or something to present.
I think that's a really good idea. They can't be there to maybe answer questions and answer them. Make them aware that we see you as part of the problem, part of our solution. I think even if it's only their, even if it's not the CEO, but if it's the public relations or somebody involved in what they're doing, at least give your assurance that somebody from your shop will be there and walk around with us. This folks should come.
Did anything surprise you that we talked about today?
It surprised me is when I looked at the code map, so I got
So I don't think it necessarily got bigger. I think it's just more solidified, because before we had like little pocket areas, we were trying to target like this Thompson neighborhood or the Palm Heights, and we were looking at more the floodplain, so we just kind of generalized it. So even if you're not in the floodplain, we still want to hear from you, because you're driving through the area. And so we're targeting more of a holistic community, not just certain homes. So it does look at it. We're chunking it based on roadways. We're picking certain roads to be our boundaries.
Any other feedback for the
Like, how much time will we have to, for like, our neighborhood association?
Excellent question. As soon as we decide today, or early next week, and where we're having them, we're setting out a save the date. And we want to make sure that those postcards hit 2 weeks before. And so like that, it's a minimum of 2 weeks notice on this. And that there would be then closer to the event, a reminder, since Thanksgiving is in the way of the event. So we want to make sure that everyone's reminded. But as soon as we know, there will be an email that goes out of what venue we've locked down, so that you can save the date for it. But definitely, I want to make sure that the worst case scenario is 2 weeks.
So like, we for sure were able to secure these dates and times, with these venues. If we're gonna go back and look, we can try to find and see if we can get, one of the schools as an option too.
Just making sure to nail down the time and date, and then see a location, other locations perhaps.
With the deadlines that we have, we're gonna need to make that decision, I think, next week, so. And I know school, I could will solve, but we'll work with it. And we really appreciate.
Locations where. Angry law. Places where city council already has had or houses and things, or any of those places large enough to handle some of this, or I mean, we already looked at those kinds of options. Yeah, yeah.
We did look at, every venue that was the size that we need. Given the days that we had, that's why we ended up with the choices.
It's a new venue. It's up on- just outside of the railroad tracks, like the radio, I think it was an elementary school, that they converted to a venue. Trying to remember the name off the top of my head, but, I want to say it was Jones Elementary School previously Jones Elementary. 1811. 1811.
I was certainly hopeful that in the spring, that if we are stuck with these locations, we hope the church will say that in the spring, or will that will get.
I can't think of that location right now. Tell you, I really wish we could do something in the Thompson.
Yes. And if something comes to mind of a location, please, we're gonna have Victoria's email address available, let us know, we would love to jump on it.
This has to be indoors, right?
It does have to be, it's December, it's gonna be like-
Has that little racetrack out there.
Or even St. Leo's, and I know that there's an area of the, but it goes down that.
Like the medical center, ER location on US 90 and they have a meeting room that's big enough, by chance.
We can definitely ask.
Some of the southeast quadrant,
What was that?
southeast called couples and US 90.
It's like,
Southeast.
it's like.
Yeah. You would explore that further up.
Yes, and we'll get back to you of what we heard.
Your recipe, my thoughts are all positive. I appreciate, virtual training, something you work through. I've seen open houses, formats, and they're all, I've seen one.
Jessica?
So for next steps, we are going to take into strong consideration everything that was provided to us. It gives us, we wanted to make this as productive and structured as possible, and we're just as eager for everyone to get this started. And we have a really great team, as you can see, that's ready to get started. So we'll address the input, like we have mentioned, we want to get this sooner rather than later. It goes in the blink of an eye. Yeah, hopefully, next week. So, the holidays are going to be upon us. We also want to make sure that the engagement is there, so that the sooner that we can get information out to you, the better. We're going to post the recording of today's meeting on SA Speak Up. We have some handouts. We have the QR code. And as Elizabeth had mentioned, we really strongly encourage you to sign in, because that's the only way that we know that we can make contact with you. And then also we want to lock down our community open house venues. So we'll go ahead and look at those, Robert, and then Victoria will be in contact, so you know basically who was available, who wasn't. And then we're gonna get that information out to the community sooner rather than later. And then we want to look forward to December so that we can get started. Because the sooner that we can get this targeted, we want to start as soon as possible so that we can get that communication out. So a lot of the things that you actually saw were the different materials that are going to be available. I see a lot of folks in the audience that we customarily work with. So if there's newsletters, church bulletins, we want to know what those are, and we can easily provide those packets of information. The other thing that Elizabeth hinted on that I want to reiterate, I've even driven out to the community. I know that even at a moment's notice, we printed out handouts, and they said, I have an event coming up and I need 200 handouts because we're going to target a whole group of people. You can let Victoria know, and then we're going to facilitate and coordinate that. Because I know more often than not, we rely on social media. Technology is great, but sometimes folks, especially your neighbors that are not mobile, would prefer something in a hard copy. So we need to know that as well. And like I have mentioned, the whole point of getting this community engagement is to get the word out. So even though we've highlighted those tools, if there are bulletins as well as newsletters and things like that, I just really wanted to reiterate that. Let us know so that we can put Elizabeth and the team in contact, so that as we work through this process, it wouldn't be isolated to just this one time. We want to utilize that as a communication tool that we can put in our toolbox, and we will continue to utilize that to get the word out. So I wanted to thank everybody. We have Victoria Escobedo, her email address is provided. We also have the QR code. SA Speak Up is equipped that folks that have questions, it takes in questions as far as comments. Our goal is to over communicate. We want you to get sick of us. So that is our goal. We wanted to thank everybody for being out here. As I committed, I will stick around. I'll be here so that if there are any specific questions that anybody has, I'm here to address those. And I wanted to thank our group members for coming out. Robert and Michelle, thank you so very much for being here. If there's things, Elizabeth had noted that come to mind that really you're absorbing a lot of information that we're giving you, please don't hesitate to reach out to Victoria. So that concludes our meeting for today. Be on the lookout. We'll have the video as well as all the information out on the SA Speak Up. Please do sign in if you haven't signed in. Thank you.
Recording.
Stop. Stop it.
Very sad.
Sleep.